Alright, this is test footage of another piece of gear in the mobile movie making kit that I'm building. It's the Hohem iSteady X smartphone gimbal when used with one of the heaviest phones, my Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. So if you like the footage you see here and you're looking for a smartphone gimbal, you'll probably like it with your phone, because you either have a heavy phone like mine or lighter. This is the Samsung S21 Ultra. Again, it is 8.7 ounces without a case. I'm using it with a case in this footage. I'm using the Mars Taurus Climber, which brings the weight of the phone up to 9.4 ounces. That's only 0.4 ounces less than the maximum weight limit of the Hohem, and it worked pretty well. So I went to the Frost Museum in Miami with my sister and my nieces, and what we have here is footage of every in-phone stabilization setting of the S21 Ultra, including no stabilizer in the phone when used in conjunction with the Hohem iSteady X. We're here at the Frost Museum in Miami, and look how good this fits. That ass! Out in the jungles of Jurassic Park. Psych. This is the main lens with all stabilization off in the phone. I'm using the gimbal and no phone stabilizer. No built-in stabilizer, just the gimbal. Alright, so if there's any one single test shot that you need to see as an example of how good the Hohem iSteady X works, this is the shot, because I have no stabilization turned on in the phone. The phone is completely being stabilized by the Hohem on its own, and as you can see, it's nice and even. It keeps the phone level, nice floaty image, no jitters, no shaking. Looks professional and stabilized to me. Now what you're gonna see later on is I test it with stabilization turned on in the phone, and it's mostly good, but every so often there is a little bit of a leaning problem when I have stabilization turned on in the phone. It seems to contend against the Hohem with a little bit of leaning every once in a while. But you can see here with the phone stabilized turned off that there are a couple of jerks now and then, but there are a couple of jerks with the phone stabilized turned on that you'll see later. No stabilizer's perfect. Even the GoPro fails anomalously, but I would say that the Hohem is 90% reliable. Now, we all know that the longer the zoom, the harder it is to stabilize, but even with the 3x lens of the S21 Ultra here, we can see that the Hohem, it doesn't really struggle and remains pretty smooth. Ultra wide lens, which is great. The gimbal clamp is at an angle engineered perfectly to avoid getting inside the shot of a wide angle lens on your phone. Look, Lana. Over there. I should point out that later there is an example of how to use the Hohem as a selfie stick, but in every example that I have here where the Hohem is turned on, I just have it set to the standard mode where it sort of follows wherever you turn, and I didn't use the Hohem app, I just used the regular camera in the Galaxy. Now if you watch right here, you can see a little jitter, and I'm not sure if that came from the gimbal or the in-phone digital stabilization. I'm gonna guess that it came from the in-phone digital stabilization because I have noticed that struggling just once in a while. And the gimbal didn't seem to jitter like that when I had the stabilizer and the phone turned off, though it did jerk a couple times because of weight. And sometimes digital stabilizers compete with mechanical stabilizers when they're both being used at the same time. They often complement each other, but once in a while I have noticed, like with mirrorless cameras with their IBIS combined with a Steadicam or some similar type of stabilizer, that they might conflict with each other sometimes. So as I teased before, what you can see here is a long pan from right to left, and what you can see is a noticeable tilting of the image toward the right while I pan, and it straightens out again, but especially during panning there's some tilting going on, and I'm pretty sure that's a result of using the phone stabilization in conjunction with the gimbal stabilization, because I didn't have any such problems when I just used the gimbal stabilizer only. I don't think it's an issue of weight, once again, because when I had the phone with the same case, same weight, and I wasn't using the in-phone stabilizer, the image stayed completely even the whole time, completely level, with the assistance of the Hohem gimbal and nothing else. Though there were a couple of jerks in that instance with the phone stabilizer turned off, it didn't have any problem staying level. So once again, trade-off. 90% reliable. Yet here's some of that 10 where we have a little bit of sway to the left and right, especially when turning. Though it is nice and smooth, no jitter, no jerking. Another example of that lean that's going on when I have the phone stabilizer turned on in the phone. No fault of the gimbal at all, I don't think. Now it's leaning way to the left as I pan left. But as you see, once I start walking straight again, it straightens out. That's just a little issue to be aware of. So here are two examples, one indoor and coming up next is one outdoor, of a walking shot with Super Steady mode OIS turned on in the phone, used in conjunction with the Hohem iSteady X gimbal, and they actually seem to work together pretty well, especially in this footage, considering I wasn't trying to do a ninja walk that so many people use when they're using stabilizers. I was just walking around basically, not trying to be particularly steady with my stride. This is main lens with Super Steady on and the gimbal. So as you might see, I think that Super Steady OIS in the phone collaborates a little bit better with the gimbal. There's less of a leaning problem with Super Steady than there is with in-phone digital stabilized. You do also have less light coming in through the lens with Super Steady turned on, so keep that in mind. Here's a test with the main lens. I have the gimbal off. I'm just using it as a locked selfie stick. Seems pretty good. So when the battery's off, or when the battery's dead, you can just carry it with all the axes locked. Card?
Card, because all of these things you're supposed to put your card in.
Oh yeah. So I'm using the main lens with Super Steady on, and I have the gimbal completely off, just using it like a selfie stick. So every axis is locked. When the battery dies, you can just use it like a selfie stick. Seems pretty good. Now what you might have noticed in that shot, and even a little bit in this shot, is that when you're using selfie stick mode, you have the gimbal completely turned off. The gimbal's not moving. But the stabilizer in your phone, if you have it turned on, is going to be moving around a little bit, whether it's the lens moving around mechanically or digital stabilization, where the shot is moving around in a cropped-in frame. And because of that, you might get a little glimpse of the gimbal itself in the side of the frame, even though the gimbal is by design supposed to be out of the way of the lens. It can only be so much out of the way of the lens on wide lenses, such as the main lens of the Galaxy S21 Ultra, but that's no big deal. And this here is the same gimbal setting, completely turned off, every axis locked with the phone clipped in, but using the selfie camera on the S21 Ultra while I looked around bewildered. This is back to the main lens here. So now I'm using the gimbal with the selfie cam. I'm gonna quick press the power button to turn landscape to portrait. Pretty nice. Now this is the main lens with no stabilizer on the phone, just the Hohem gimbal. I'm gonna run. Now I got the phone in the Hohem gimbal, and with Super Steady on, I'm gonna run. So here in the run test, we see that Super Steady conflicts with the Hohem a little bit because it overcorrects, as you just saw. Kind of realizes how fast you're going too late while you're turning and overcorrects. So now I got the Hohem stabilizer and regular digital video stabilization in the phone on. I'm gonna run. So when running with the gimbal and the in-phone digital stabilizer turned on, the digital stabilizer does fairly, but not perfectly, because here we can see that it's not jittery, but there is a little bit of bouncing once in a while as the in-phone digital stab overcompensates. I'm still mostly satisfied as there's no jittering or jerking here. So that's it. Other than the occasional issues I've shown you here, the only conceivable drawback of the Hohem is its relatively low battery life compared to its Benro and Osmo competition. But you get 7+ hours of battery easy, which is more than I can ever imagine needing. And even including that, I would say, my opinion, definitely the Hohem iSteady X is the best smartphone gimbal out right now. You can fit it in your pocket easily, affordable. It has a high weight limit and a big enough clamp to hold and operate almost any type of phone, if not every phone, even including with a normal size case on it, and performs reliably and wonderfully. So I hope this helped, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the rest of my mobile movie making kit. Next, I'll be reviewing the Saramonic mic system.